NFC Championship weekend is upon us between your beloved Philadelphia Eagles and those Washington Commanders. Welcome into the show. It's great to have you along for the ride. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag, and it's just lovely to have you along for the ride. We got Jason Avant stopping by the show today. Yesterday, I teased that I was going to be, I was hoping to talk to Jason Avant. I had to talk about the passing game issues, quote unquote, of the Eagles. And I swear to goodness, we had the same exact take. I did not listen to Q&A, which is the podcast that our guest, Jason Avant, 8-year Philadelphia Eagle, does with former Eagle safety Quentin Michael. But we have the same exact take on it, which was the Eagles were cost over 100 yards of passing off in this game against the Rams. This dude drops alone. What if Jalen did check it down on a couple of more? What if the drops didn't happen? What if Jalen didn't check it down, or actually did check it down as opposed to taking sacks in this game? A couple more yards there, and all of a sudden nobody's really all that concerned. He and I had the same exact take on it. And you'll hear his version of the take when he joins the show a little bit later on. I'm going to end the show with Jason's interview today just to let you know how the run of show is going to go. But Jason's feeling good about the Eagles. He's feeling good about what could happen with this passing game. And how about the trash talk? And here's the thing. I know it's being, and it should be used as bulletin board material, but Joe Witt, the defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, who was also an assistant under Dan Quinn when he was the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys, so he knows the Philadelphia Eagles rather well. He put it out there talking about how they're going to hit Jalen Hurts if he runs. I heard it, and I thought, duh? Like, what else? If he runs, we're going to hit him like a running back. Oh, so you're not going to hit him like a wide receiver? You're not going to try to pass or, pass block him? Or what do you, of course you're going to try to hit him like he's a running back because he's a runner with the football. He's a ball carrier. Do you tackle a wide receiver different? Do you tackle a defensive end different? Of course. Now, the intent is to put some fear into the Eagles. The intent is to try to intimidate the Philadelphia Eagles, intimidate Jalen Hurts. Oh, you got a little knee issue? You're not going to be as quick as you usually are? Well, you better watch out. Oh, so you're going to be playing football too. I'm going to be playing football over here as a quarterback, and you're going to be playing football over there as defenders? Oh, my God, no way. Thanks for pointing that out, Joe. Doing a bang-up job. I feel really good about this Eagles game on Sunday. The things that give me pause, we'll talk about. The things that make me feel really good, we'll talk about. Also, some great stuff yesterday from Nick Sirianni on not being one of the AP finalists for Coach of the Year. My man, Dave Uram, KYW News Radio, laid it all out there in about, I think he only asked a 15-minute question that was full of compliments for Nick Sirianni. And Sirianni was like, what's happening with this? What's going on with that? But he answered the question. He's like, I don't care. We'll let you hear the way he answered that. Also, I'm not bringing up anything else about the Rams game. We're not talking about anything else. I'm not going to list things that I'm not going to talk about. The one thing, though, that I am going to hearken back to is the sacks. Because I understand, and we did sack court on here. 3 of the sacks unquestionably on the Eagles offensive line. 4 of the sacks on Jalen. For just trying to avoid the sack, it would have been 3 easy things for him to do to try to avoid sacks. And the other is one kind of questionable thing, which was the safety. But anyway, I'm talking about. So I need to hear from Lane Johnson, or at least somebody on the Eagles offensive line, of why that was a fluke. Why getting sacked 7 times is not going to happen in back-to-back games. That's what I need to know. So Lane Johnson breaks it down by just saying what they struggled with. They're talking about what they struggled with and why that's not going to happen again and why it happened. And the scary thing for me is when you go to that Carolina Panthers game that might haunt a lot of our dreams when it comes to the inefficiency of the pass game and how they were not in sync for the pass game. And you're going to probably end up needing the passing game in this. And if not this game, the next game, the Super Bowl, knock on wood. So that Panthers game haunts me. I know it haunts a lot of us, but after that game, Jordan Mailata came out and said, yeah, on some of these things, we didn't know what we were doing as an offensive line. He didn't say we didn't know what we were doing as a passing offense. He didn't say we didn't know what we were doing as a team. He said we didn't know what we were doing as an offensive line. And that was a come again moment. What was that? I'm sorry, what? Say one more time. Repeat that. What did you say? Because that's not a thing in Stoutland University where the offensive line is confused or the offensive line doesn't know what they're doing. And then you watch the all-22 of that and you go, oh, yeah, this is terrible. This is awful. This is not good at all. And then you watch this game here against the Rams, and although there was snow, and although Jalen wasn't at his best when it came to get rid of the football, when it came to protecting the football, great. When it came to protecting himself, not so great, which is a big reason why I'd love to see him get rid of the football. But Lane Johnson was talking about things that made me remember what Jordan Mailata was talking about after another game where the passing game did not seem to be in sync, or the offensive line didn't seem to be in sync. So we'll get into that. Continuing, one of the best stories of the season is Zack Baun. This guy, it laughs at the idea of having the words Pro Bowler in his contract. Goes through the contract, sees Pro Bowl incentive, and goes, that's hilarious. Okay, anyway, where do I sign? All right, great to be here in Philadelphia. And here he is. He's going to the Pro Bowl. Here he is. He's an All-Pro. And he got asked about being an All-Pro yesterday. We'll let you hear about that. And also what it takes to stop Jaden Daniels. Long story short, it takes a village, as they say. It takes a village. So we'll get into all that as the show goes on today. Jalen Hurts also as a full participant. Jalen Hurts full participant in practice yesterday. So that's great news. Love that. Limited during the walkthrough, which is estimated only. And then Quentin Mitchell and Jalen Hurts were listed as full participants in practice yesterday. So we will get into all of that on today's program. And as I said, we'll end the show with the Jason Avant interview. First and foremost, when I look at this game, there's a couple of things I look at. Two things that make me feel not so great. Two things that make me feel pretty damn good. The first thing that I look at with this Eagles game, when it comes to take on the Commanders, is you do go back and you look at the previous games. And I went through my notes, went back and watched the extended highlights of both games just to put my mind back in it. And one of the things that I forgot about was just how much I knew he was a pain in the arse. But good Lord, Frankie Luvu is the number one guy that I think about when facing the Commanders. I have all the respect in the world for Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels is not going to hurt Jalen Hurts. That is not happening. He's not going to come out and tackle Jalen Hurts, so that ain't happening. But Frankie Luvu is the guy that could really put a hitch in the giddy-up of the passing game. He could also lurk when it comes to the run game as well. I don't have as much concern there because this run game has been fantastic all year, and their run defense has been crap all year. But going back to game one, Luvu in that game had 10 tackles. 4 of them were solo. He had 2 sacks. He had 2 tackles for loss. He was getting after it in game one against the Eagles. And if you remember, his first sack was a little thing in the first quarter. I think it was a 3rd down, and he got it like a little 2-yard loss on Jalen Hurts there. Okay. The second sack he had, if you remember, the Eagles ran that dumb double reverse or fake reverse or whatever the hell it was. And it was a fake reverse because it was still in Jalen Hurts' hands. And Frankie Luvu was like, yeah, that's cute. And then just went right after Jalen Hurts for a 13-yard loss. Frankie Luvu sniffed that out in game one. So he had himself an excellent game. And that knocked the Eagles out of field goal range. That was a game also, if you remember, on Thursday night where Jake Elliott struggled. He ended up missing the 51-yard field goal after that sack that knocked him out of easier field goal range, if you will. So game one, statistically speaking, was even the better game for Frankie Luvu. The more memorable, and not in a good way, game for Frankie Luvu was game number 2. And that is when he and Bobby Wagner took down Jalen Hurts despite his head first surrendering. Bobby Wagner, veteran, comes in there, is the first in. And then, Frankie Luvu is a veteran as well. He was with Carolina for a few years, with the Jets, or Jets for years, Carolina as well. And he comes in high. He comes up top. Not high as like off the ground, but high on where, the body of Jalen Hurts, also known as his head. His head hits the ground, concussion. We don't see it. until the playoffs. So I don't like that. Don't like that one bit. And that's the play we all remember of Frankie Luvu. When you look at his season, he also picked off Kenny Pickett. Let's not forget about that. He baited Kenny Pickett on that play, if you remember. He did what the Jets did against the Eagles last year, if you remember. They took Frankie Luvu, then they brought him into the line of scrimmage. This is with Kenny Pickett at quarterback last time they faced him. And then he went up to the line of scrimmage like he was going to blitz, and he backed off. I wouldn't even call it a fake blitz. He just stood at the line for a second and then backed off at the snap, and he ball right in his chest. Right in his chest. So good instincts by him, good play by him, and bad throw by Kenny Pickett. 11 tackles for loss for Frankie Luvu this season. 4 of them have been against the Eagles. That doesn't make you feel good. Also, he's only had one other game where he's had 2 sacks in a game like he had against the Eagles in their first matchup of the season. I think that was before Thanksgiving. Just before Thanksgiving. He has 2.5 sacks against the Cleveland Browns when Deshaun Watson was their quarterback, and he had 2 sacks against the Eagles in their first matchup of the season. So for whatever reason, this is just a team that Frankie Luvu puts a quarter in the machine and it really gets them going. I also want to point out that the game that they played against the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson, they got to Deshaun Watson 7 times in that game, and 2.5 times Frankie Luvu was either doing it or he was in on it. He's the first guy that I look at. The second guy that is far more dangerous overall and could cost you the game overall, and if you're not up 2 touchdowns, it feels like, the game's not safe. Jaden Daniels. Everything they're saying about him, whether it's Vic Fangio early in the week talking about Jaden Daniels is only young on his birth certificate, but by football, he's a seasoned vet, is so true. And I go back to that drive after Smitty dropped the ball in game 2. Jaden Daniels, I forget what it was, 4 for 4, 5 for 5, whatever it was to get down the field. Piece of cake. And into the end zone. The way he ended both games against the Eagles, although the one was a little futile considering in the first matchup of the season, he threw that touchdown pass on his final drive to Zack Ertz in a little garbage time action, but still it makes the score look a hell of a lot better. As he comes back, as the Eagles go down to Washington, and they lose Jalen Hurts 11 snaps into the game. The Eagles went up 21-7 by the end of that first quarter. 21-7. And they ended up losing that game 36-33. Jaden Daniels is the number one reason why. Other than the obvious of, Jalen Hurts wasn't playing and he would have extended drives and they would have had the opportunity. Okay, fine. But Jaden Daniels marched that team down the field. All the while, scanning the defense perfectly. Moments where you think you got them. They're down and out on 3rd and long. He comes up with a big scramble. They're down and out on 3rd and long. He comes up with the perfect pass. Just makes the right reads. He doesn't make many mistakes. The Eagles have picked him off. They got the 2 interception game, I believe it was, in the first game of the season. I think they got him again in the second. I'll go back and check that. But Jaden Daniels just plays such great heads-up football that he's a difficult guy to fluster. And no matter what you do through quarters 1 through 3, if you're not up 2 scores in the fourth quarter, going into the fourth quarter, you're going to be sweating this game out because you know what's coming. A hurry-up offense with Jaden Daniels. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury get in the meeting room this week and they're like, you're going to do hurry up. I'm totally doing hurry up. Start things out. Absolutely. Jaden slices and dices this team when he's in hurry up. Yeah, we're going to do that. If I'm the Commanders, I always try to think about what the other team would do, other than what we're about to hear from Joe Witt. What the other team would do in this situation. Well, the other team is going to try to keep your offense off the field. So, yeah, you don't want Saquon Barkley on the field. You don't want Jalen Hurts on the field with another opportunity with these receivers, including Dallas Goedert, to be on the field and try to score quickly. But at the same time, you also got to be the best version of your offense. And the best version of your offense hasn't clicked in against the Eagles until the later stages of the game when you are running hurry up. I would expect them to come out of the gates with a hurry up offense. If they get the first possession, absolutely. If they win the coin toss they get the first possession, or even on their opening drive, their first drive, on their first possession, I should say. I would go hurry up if I was them. And, put the ball, drop the gauntlet. If they're able to set a tone where the Eagles have to quickly respond just to put some people's minds at ease, including their own, might not be the worst thing in the world. So I would expect it coming up against the Commanders here for them to go hurry up. Those are two things. And just in Jaden Daniels and Frankie Luvu, I look at this game. We can talk about Brian Robinson. We can talk about even Bobby Wagner, who still plays great instincts and still is making plays for that Commanders defense. Zack Ertz has just had a complete resurgence. And I listened to him yesterday. He had a press conference earlier in the week, as one would assume. But he has really been able to put things together again for that Commanders offense and just been this term gets overused so much, but security blanket for Jaden Daniels. And he was saying in his interview yesterday that he has, rediscovered a love of football. One of the things he did in this offseason was reconnect with his strength coach that he had all the way back in college. And a couple years they weren't working together. I assume that's when Zach was in Arizona. I don't know. But Zach was just talking about rediscovering the love of the game. And if you have a quarterback that you feel like you're on the same page with, a quarterback like you feel like you're really bailing out, then you can certainly develop chemistry many, many times. When I say bailing out, I don't mean that Jaden Daniels needs a rescue team or anything like that. But I just mean that, I don't have Terry McLaurin, for instance. Where's 86? And then he ends up finding Zack Ertz over the middle of the field and often, unfortunately, in the end zone. And it's just been one hell of a resurgence year for Zack Ertz. And personally, I couldn't be happier for a former Eagle, a guy that scored a game-winning touchdown in the Eagles' only Super Bowl victory. But, damn, it would really be a dagger if he stuck it to the Eagles in this one. And I know that Nick Sirianni said that he and Zach are cool and they're on the same page and all that stuff after the little handshake mishap after game 2. But I don't think that there's exactly great blood there. I'm not saying there's bad blood, but I don't think you're going to catch the two of them out, at a diner together or anything like that. I don't think you're going to see the two of them, bellied up to a bar together, exchanging old stories. But the way Zack Ertz has been playing as of late, had a touchdown against the Lions. That's something that is certainly going to keep my attention. The other thing that I'm going to be looking at in this game, as far as feeling better about the Eagles and their chances. The Eagles went up against this team in their last meeting without Jalen Hurts for all but 11 snaps. So Jalen Hurts plays, they win the game. Simple. That makes you feel, okay, your victory on the season is a last second game-winning drive against the Eagles, who had Kenny Pickett for 3+ quarters. That's you feeling like you could beat the Eagles. Okay? The other thing that makes me feel good is I would talk about the offensive line giving up 7 sacks again. That would be shocking. How about an offense that the Washington Commanders play gives up another 5 turnovers? That ain't happening. Especially if the number one priority, other than getting safe on the ball, for Jalen Hurts is protecting the football. It ain't happening. So they stomped the Lions. Give them every ounce of credit for that. They also had 5 turnovers. They won the game by 2 touchdowns. They got 2 touchdowns off those 5 turnovers. So they cashed in. They did their job. Good for them. But in a lot of ways, I'm somewhat exploring the avenue that this could have been their Super Bowl. Beating the Lions on the road, heavy underdogs, and they did it. And hey, to their credit, they had the 5 takeaways, and they got 2 touchdowns out of it. All right. I would doubt that the Eagles' offense is going to turn the football over 5 times. I would doubt that. Big time. I would doubt that. So that actually makes me feel better about the Eagles' chances here because they don't turn the football over anymore. Knock on wood. All right. So that makes me feel pretty damn good Uh, the other thing that makes me feel good is that this is a home game for the Eagles where they're fantastic. They're a great home team. They really do ride off the energy of the crowd. They feed off the energy of the crowd. And Jaden Daniels lost here. And Jaden Daniels threw a awful interception that Reed Blankenship just made a great read on, if you remember. And Saquon Barkley had 2 touchdowns in 20 seconds in that game in November. 2 touchdowns in 20 seconds. Of all the things, I know I said this yesterday, but oh my God, of all the things that have happened this year, that's the thing that's just amazing. I mean, you talk about being a home run hitter. That's like back-to-back home runs by the same guy. That's back-to-back-to-back home runs if you consider Saquon Barkley's touchdown run, Reed Blankenship's interception, and then another touchdown run by Saquon Barkley, all in the span of 20 seconds. You want to talk about a turnaround? Holy Stromboli. That's a turnaround. So all in all, I feel really good about this game. And although this isn't going to be my final prediction, of all the hesitancy, of all the I don't want to call it timidness or being afraid, but all the respect that I have for Jaden Daniels in the year he was being able to put together. All the respect I have for that. Like, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Vic Fangio, in his 3rd attempt at facing Jaden Daniels, somehow cracked the code. One encouraging thing, and I said we'll hear from Zack Baun in a second, but one of the things Zack Baun got into yesterday was the chemistry that he's been able to build up rather quickly with Oren Burks. And he reiterated what Vic Fangio has told us throughout the last couple of weeks here when we knew we weren't going to be seeing Nakobe Dean out there, which was that he mix and matches his linebackers throughout the season so that they all build up some chemistry in the event they got to go on the field without the other. So Zack Baun referenced that yesterday, saying that he and Oren Burks just kind of clicked when it came to understanding where each other's going to be, understanding when one's going to pass somebody off to the other, being aggressive. When one's going to go up to the line, one might stay back in coverage, whatever it might be. They just have a really good understanding of that already for guys that haven't really played together at the NFL level, but just mostly in practice. And one of the things that was really encouraging about this game against the Rams was that there was a series in the second half where you really needed somebody to step up defensively and do it. And Zack Baun came together with a series that ended with him picking up the fumble that was forced out by Nolan Smith. That was the Zack Baun series. Later on, Oren Burks ends up having a huge series, including knocking down a pass from Matt Stafford that helped I think that was a 3-and-out situation by the Rams in the fourth quarter. So these are two guys that each stepped up in the second half, in crunch time, if you will, to force 3-and-outs or to force a turnover or get a turnover. And Zack Baun had a great series where it was like the Zack Baun series. And then I think it was the next series or the one after where then it was Oren Burks stepping up and making plays for this Eagles defense. To see both those guys step up and do that in the second half of what felt like what was a tight game throughout makes me feel a lot better. Like, especially because I've been saying throughout this entire time, this is the game you're going to miss Nakobe Dean. Hopefully you don't miss him nearly as much because Oren Burks is going to ball out and Zack Baun, of course, is going to ball out. That's what I'm going to cross my fingers for in this one, and I don't think that's a pipe dream by any means. But seeing those two get better as the game went on, playing together, makes me feel like, all right, they could take off from where they left off in the second half against the Rams. Take that into this game here. Totally different game, I get it. Totally different team, I get it. But when you're just talking about those two building up that chemistry and understanding where each other is on the field and then playing well together, that second half, build off of that. Pick up where you left off in the first half of this game. And then, in the second half as well. So that makes me feel good as well, just seeing those guys play better as the game went on. Joe Witt. Now we're going to get into some sound here. Oh, so it wouldn't surprise me if this game was 45-10 Eagles. But I'll give you my prediction now. Let me know in the comments what your prediction would be as well. But my prediction for this game is 27-24 Eagles. I don't see a world where we could be a blowout in terms of I wouldn't be shocked if the Eagles just totally won 45-10, because that would mean that Vic Fangio cracked the code. I just don't think it's going to happen. And nobody does. Nobody's calling for that, which is kind of the reason I'm thinking like, well, what if this was like 45-10 Eagles? That'd be pretty awesome. That would be awesome. I think realistically speaking, 27-24 Eagles win this game. I think it's one that they sweat out, unfortunately. And a second Super Bowl trip for Nick Sirianni. When you look at Nick Sirianni, what do you see? Because here's a guy that's one win away from going back to a second Super Bowl. Andy Reid never did that. This is a guy that has won at least 13 games in a season twice. Andy Reid never did it. This is a guy that's won 14 games in the season twice. Andy Reid never did that. And I understand there's an extra game there as well, but, whatever. He's doing it before week 17. That's pretty impressive. Or excuse me, week 18, I should say. So that's pretty impressive. Sure, he doesn't call the plays with great regularity. Sure, he might not be as involved in the game plan. But if Nick Sirianni started out his career with the Philadelphia Eagles as just a CEO head coach, I would buy it. I'd be like, oh, this guy's totally a CEO. Look, he's just running stuff, the whole team. He's not focused on just the offense or the defense or the wide receivers or the tight ends or the linebackers. He's the CEO guy, man. He's overseeing everything. Then it wouldn't look so bad. But the decrease in responsibility kind of makes it look bad. And what else makes it look bad is the fact that the award finalists for Coach of the Year. Oh, that's the wrong one. But the award finalists for Coach of the Year do not include Nick Sirianni. So I think the NFL kind of has to know that a guy that won 14 games this year doesn't have much to do with winning and losing as much as the other guys. That's not a good look. Do I think he's deserving? Absolutely. The unfortunate thing is you had some 14-win teams in this team. You had some 15-win teams in this season. So there's a lot of competition, unfortunately. Well, let's hear from Nick Sirianni about. Actually, let's get into it right now. Here's Nick Sirianni talking about not being named one of the AP Coach of the Year finalists.
The AP came out with its finalists for the awards, and I recognize that you're focused on the practice today and the game coming up, and this is not something you can really control. But your record's been really good here over your tenure. You overcame the collapse of last season, some struggles early this season. There's been a lot of adversity that you've overcome, and you're still not a finalist for Coach of the Year. What is your reaction to that?
I don't care about that stuff. I just want to win. I didn't know it was like the Jerry Maguire where he's telling him all the things about himself. He's like, I'm not going to cry, Roy. And so, no, I don't care. I don't care about that stuff. I just want to win. And we're in a position to be able to, if we win, go to the Super Bowl. That's pretty dope. And that's all my focus is on.
I'm not going to cry, Roy. And also, I think do I need to add to the drops here?
Ugh. Take away the scoreboard.
Do I need to add that's pretty dope? I think I need to add that's pretty dope. Anyway, I believe him. If you win a Super Bowl, who the hell cares who the Coach of the Year is? I couldn't name for you, 3 out of the last 10 coaches of the year. Don't care. That's a nice, hey, good job, coach. You know what I mean? I always respect the coaches that let the players have the moment, even though they're deserving. Don't get me wrong. Like one of the coolest things, I don't want to go there. I'll say one of the coolest things, the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, Herb Brooks walked away. Like I always just thought that was the coolest assassin stuff ever. Just all right. And then he just went in and let the players celebrate. Nick Sirianni just wants to win a Super Bowl. No, don't get me. He ain't walking away. They win a Super Bowl. I think Nick Sirianni is going to go streaking down the field. He's a very emotional man. If he's crying at the national anthem, if he's bawling at the national anthem, then if they win that Super Bowl, I guarantee Nick Sirianni's doing naked cartwheels down the middle of the field. We got a streaker on the field. No, that's the head coach. No way. Oh, he seems excited. So I believe him that he doesn't care about it. I think it'd be nice to have, but I honestly don't think that he does care about it. Now, as far as what coaches were saying about this game, this was worrisome. Joe Witt, defensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders, took to the podium yesterday, or the dais, if you will, and he was talking about Jalen Hurts running. Oh boy, what are they going to do if somebody carries the ball?
Pocket more.
Well, we've had a number of these guys that we've had to prepare for, and so the one thing is if he's going to run the ball, and if the coordinator makes a decision for him to run the ball, we're going to treat him like a running back, and we're going to hit him that way. So that's their decision if they want to get him hit the way that he gets hit. If they don't, they'll keep him in the pocket. So, but that's what we're going to do.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Give me that bulletin board material, please, and thank you. When it comes to this Philadelphia Eagles team and a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts, one of the things that I absolutely love is that he, for the most part, can avoid the big hit. For the most part, he slides. For the most part, yeah, he'll go down head first too. For the most part, he gets out of bounds. The one thing he doesn't really do is throw the ball away. But when you hear a defensive coordinator talk about a versatile quarterback like that, and he says if he's going to run the football, we're going to treat him like a running back, well, what the hell else would you treat him like? The two things that make this a lightning rod sentence, the two things that do that, one, you're talking about hitting a quarterback. Two, you're calling him a running back. And all the people that be like, oh, Jalen Hurts just a glorified running back, all those people get to stick their chest out. That's why that's so polarizing, that comment. So Nick Sirianni was asked about that yesterday, and his response was similar to mine.
Going to run him.
No, I mean, guys are going to every team is going to try to tackle Jalen like a running back. I mean, he's running with the football. They'll try to tackle him. That doesn't. We already are ultimately cautious with how we use them and how we think about each play because we know how important it is to have him out there. But I wouldn't expect anything else. Jalen knows how to take care of himself, and we know how to kind of help him do that as well as far as the way the scheme goes.
I certainly hope so. Well, how else would you tackle him? How do you tackle wide receivers? The only person that's supposed to be tackled differently is the quarterback, but in the pocket. Whole lot of nothing. That's what I got out of it. Zack Baun yesterday was asked about being an all-pro. And here's what Zack Baun had to say.
Yeah, that's really cool, really special. Honestly, not even on the.
Excuse me, I'm a big fat idiot. Of the awards, he's Defensive Player of the Year finalist. That's what I felt like I've talked about this before. I have. This is Defensive Player of the Year. I haven't talked about this. He's a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's really cool, really special. Honestly, not even on the spectrum of a goal of mine. I really just try to be the best player I can be and try to maximize my potential and my ability. So for that to be that one, not the end result, but an outcome of the work I've put in, I'm really proud of myself. And then it's a lot of credit to the guys up front and the guys on this team for aiding in my success. I really appreciate their efforts.
You could really tell that the guy appreciates everybody's efforts because he always shouts everybody out when he talks about his own success, most notably Vic Fangio. So you couldn't be happier for a guy like that. Now the task at hand, stopping Jaden Daniels. How do you do it?
It takes the whole defense from the back end and what we do in coverage to the guys up front and kind of crush rushing and containing him that way, not giving him escape lanes to get out of the pocket or escape through a B gap because that's when he's most dangerous.
How comfortable?
Hopefully not comfortable at all. Thank you, John McMullen. Yeah. Oh, boy. This defense is on point. It's going to be a blowout. Jaden Daniels has done it all year. I believe it's 5 times this year they've been leading or trailing in the fourth quarter and then won the game. When I was talking to Ray the other night, Ray Didinger, he was like, do you know how many comebacks he has? I was like, no. I was like, I know it's at least a handful or whatever. And he goes, yeah, 5. I go, really? That many? And he's like, yeah. I was like, damn. Yeah, he doesn't go away. He just doesn't go away. So that's what the defense is going to do. The offensive line, 7 sacks. Please don't do that again. I mentioned this earlier in the show. Jordan Mailata, after the Panthers game, was like, yeah, we didn't know what we were doing on some of these plays as an offensive line. Not as, what's Jalen doing? No, he's talking just about an offensive line. So yesterday, Lane Johnson was asked about why 7 sacks. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah, just I think you go back and look at the Rams game, just some stunts that weren't picked up effectively. So, a lot of times what they do, they run these different alignments. They try to create separation between the center guards and tackles. And when they get that and your technique isn't on point, that's what happened.
I do remember going back and watching the game and then being like, when he brought up the spacing, I remember thinking, are they running like a wide 9? There's a lot of room out there. And then I saw them like basically doing the equivalent, like what a spread offense does. They were spreading out the offensive line as a defensive line. And then they'd send one guy. And there was the one instance, the Hail Mary situation at the end of the first half, they sent 2 blitzers up the line of scrimmage, but they only rushed 5. They had 3 down linemen and they had 2 linebackers blitzing. Because they had guys so spread out, those linebackers came up and got right around the pass block. Like it was nothing, and flushed Jalen out of the pocket. So that's what he's talking about, that spacing. That was a problem. That was similar to that throughout the game with the exception of the 2 blitzing linebackers. They would have 4 down linemen and then bring 1 from either the linebacking core or the secondary, and there was just space. There was room to maneuver. And if you're a little if you're a little defensive back or whatever, or you're a tiny little linebacker, and you're coming up on maybe even a delayed blitz, that's creating a lot of space for you to maneuver around an offensive lineman. So again, if you're Dan Quinn and you got experience going against the Jeff Stoutland the offensive line, you're going to be dialing up a lot of different stuff. And if you already have somebody who's been a game wrecker against the Eagles, and that's Frankie Luvu, then you're going to be deploying him as often as possible. So I do for that for the Eagles as well, for the Commanders to do against the Eagles. So that was the sounds of the locker room yesterday. Jordan Mailata had a great testimony as well to Jalen Hurts, but basically I can sum that up with just talking about how tough the guy is. So love that he was a full participant in practice yesterday, and hopefully he keeps that coming. Hey, let me tell you about the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, and get $20 off your first purchase. I mentioned to you guys before, the Sixers got the Cavs in town. I've told you guys many times before, I married into a Cleveland family. My wife's originally from originally from Long Island. She was born in Long Island while her father was working up there for a minute. But she was raised in Maryland. And her parents all Ohio State people. So they're pretty happy. They're going to be in town tonight. Leo, my son, is turning 3 tomorrow. And they're going to be in town. And the Cavs are in town as well. So my wife and my father-in-law are going to the Sixers-Cavs game via the Game Time app. Because it's so easy. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy. Yes, my wife will type that into her phone tonight. Use promo code Farzy and get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. You want to go to the concert, the comedy show, the big game, the big event? Game Time app has you covered. Also, Game Time Picks is fantastic. It filters out all the fluff so you see exactly what you're going to be. It shows you the best seats at the best prices with the Game Time Picks feature on the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase, and use Game Time Picks. Use that feature, toggle that feature, and you see the best seats at the best prices on the Game Time app. Also, the Game Time all-in pricing feature. Use that one as well. All-in pricing. Takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You don't have to be like, how come these $20 tickets are now $30? No. Shows you the price before you check out. That's how great the Game Time app is. So download the app, create an account, use promo code Farzy, get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. How about PHL Sports Nation? Philadelphia Sports Nation, enhancing your Philadelphia sports fan experience across all social media and blogs. That's phlsportsnation.com. Let's get into the chat check before we get to the Jason Avant interview. Dakota, did the show really start at 6? No, it started like 6:10 today. But that's still early for me. Dylan Carepa, what's happening? Good morning from Boise. Oh, that's right, Boise. That's where you're from. Hey, what's going on? Driving home to Nevada to watch the game with the fam. That's beautiful. Wine Niners Wine. Safe travels, by the way. Wine Niners Wine. Starting this early, pre-tape or Fox It? Fox It. Good morning, Farzy and friends. Eagles blow commies out in just a few hours. Wow, that's fun. Luvu is a bitch. Darian Dudley. Defensive coordinator signed his team's death warrant. That's hilarious. That's great. Sean Kilrain, what's going on? Hurts leads the NFL with 138 passer rating, pass attempts with 25 plus air yards. That's interesting. Week 5. That's fascinating. Out of shape, laying on the couch. Scoozy. Sean Gillespie, hello. Northeast Sports, hello. William Stark, what's going on? Good morning. Football Friday, hell yeah. Ray Williams, Commanders by 1. I'm still nervous about this game as a longtime Eagles fan, aware of our NFC Championship games. Hasn't been great. No show this Sunday. Northeast Sports, Jalen has good mobility. Just when Jalen does throw the ball, he just has to make good, crisp passes. Hey, here's the thing. There was 3 really good passes that he had in that game that were dropped. Did I hear Stromboli? Yes, you did, NJ Fishing. Where's Jason? Jason's coming up, bro. No snow this Sunday. Go Sixers, Farzy! William Stark. 24-19 Eagles. Out of shape, lying on the couch. I see your younger brother. If you're referring to Sirianni, he's older than me. Luke Skylifter, hello. Farzy absolutely cooked the cockroaches DC in the opening segment. Love it. Jalen mobility makes him good. He doesn't have to throw the ball as much. Okay. Shave that head, Nick. I agree with you. April. Morning, April. Sean Gillespie, hello again. Jaden Russell. Good point. They're not going to tackle Jaden Daniels as a quarterback, or excuse me, as a running back. Stick to the tush push. What's up, James Alexander III? Dillip Bussa, what's happening? So what? Okay. Funny thing is I see games where the Eagles were running the brotherly shove and the defensive players were getting hurt instead. Funny how that works. Dakota Warren, change the promo code to Big Farzy. Okay. That's funny. Mullet, what's going on, Mullet Alvarado? Have a wonderful weekend, everyone. You too, man. Go Birds. 30-28 Eagles, says Hardcore for All. Love it. Oh, Shane Hockley has the game. William Stark, Sean Hockley, keep a watchful eye out on Luvu, a.k.a. the cheap shot artist, right? Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Yesterday, I had a chance to talk to our good friend Jason Avant. First time in a while he's been on the show. So we're going to end the show with Jason Avant. Now, here's the thing. Unfortunately, I, on my end, had a little internet issue talking to Jason in the early goings. Fortunately, that conversation was all about his salsa dancing. He is up in New York at a dance competition. Professional dancer now. He sold his trampoline parks, okay? And he's just crushing it. You see him on NBC Sports Philadelphia. You can hear him with Quentin Michael on the Q&A podcast as part of the Inside the Birds network, the Empire, as our friend Jeff Mosher likes to say. So without further ado, 8-year Philadelphia Eagle. So I cut out the first part of it where we talk salsa, and I just jumped right to his answer to this question, so I'll set it up with this. I asked Jason Avant, Jason, with all the concerns surrounding the Eagles' passing game, where do you stand on it in general? And where do you stand on it when it comes to Jalen Hurts?
So it has to improve, and it's not all on Jalen. Some things, the Packers game, the receivers didn't uncover well, but part of that is that there's not much variety. And then so you begin to say, okay, Kellen Moore is supposed to be an offensive genius. So why isn't the offense is looking as, precise as it was when Tanner or Kenny Pickett was in there, right? So you're going to think about all of those things. And so the Packers understood when Jalen was in there. When you think about it, A.J. Brown catches 3 routes. When you really break it down, he catches a slant route, he catches stop routes, and he catches like a down the field stutter or fade or something like that. That's pretty much the lion's share of his targets. The lion's share of his targets is stops, slants, whatever. So you don't see him on daggers much. You don't see him on deep crosses and things of that nature. So teams are starting to figure it out and play the Eagles. They were playing the Eagles like they had receivers that was slow as I was, right? 4.6, 40. Right. So the DBs were sitting on everything. And so the guys couldn't uncover that well. Now against the Rams, there was a lot of targets out there. When you really think about it, Jalen went 15 for 20. Devontae had a drop, howbeit it was a penalty. A.J. Brown had a drop on the sideline. He had another drop that he kind of alligator armed the ball. So they catch those passes. It's really 18 for 20 for about 220, 230 yards and a touchdown. So when you really consider Jalen actually threw the ball well, his decision-making at times was bad, taking sacks, not seeing guys or checking it down. Like Dallas Goedert's wide open on a check down play. Second series of the game, there was a 3rd and 6. He ended up taking a sack on when A.J. Brown's man fell down. And Johnny Wilson was the #1 target in the route, and he was wide open. So those things can be improved by Jalen, but it's not all on Jalen.
All right. Some conversation that started up this year is that people are worried that Jalen would cost them a trip to the Super Bowl or cost them a Super Bowl. Do you have the same concern surrounding the Eagles franchise quarterback?
A trip to the Super Bowl? No. I think the Eagles are a better team than the Commanders, though Jaden Daniels is playing out of his mind and he's a young upstart quarterback, right? So I just think that personnel-wise, the Eagles don't have to deviate in order to beat the Commanders. They don't have to deviate. They don't have to go out and pass the ball. The Commanders are ranked 30th against the rush currently as we speak. Detroit had a field day with running the ball against them, and they just refused to at times. And they wanted to pass the ball, which they shouldn't have, right? So doesn't have to deviate in their game scheme, their run game schemes. The defense coordinator from the Commanders come out and said we're going to hit them like a running back, basically saying that was their game plan. So you can pretty much imagine that hit that everyone thought was a low and late illegal hit, it probably was a part of their mentality to try to get them out of the game anyway, right? So, but I don't think that the Eagles have to deviate. So I think they can get to the Super Bowl. Now, to win a Super Bowl is way different, because if you get to the Super Bowl, and what I think the team that's going to go to the Super Bowl is probably the Chiefs, and most people don't want to hear that. They have over 3 years of coaching experience. You're not going to beat them with a one-trick pony. You're just not. You're not going to do it. Spagnuolo's been around for 30 years. Andy Reid's been around for 30-plus years, 40 years. And Dave Tove's been around for 30. Like, you can't beat a team like that with one trick. So Jalen is going to have to throw the ball in one of these 2 games, and I think it will be the Super Bowl.
So my question is, does that concern you? Oh, no, now we have to rely on Jalen Hurts. Is that a concern of yours?
It's not a concern, because in order to stop the run, you're going to have to make the back end. You're going to put the back end in a vulnerable situation. And Jalen is better throwing at looks that are not confusing and that it's easy to know what it is. And guess what that has to be? There has to be some form of single high or some form of a vanilla defense in order to stop the run. You can't stop the run and confuse the quarterback. It's just too hard. So you're going to have to play man-to-man at times with a spy or something like that. And I think Jalen will be able to throw down the field, throw to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. And the Chiefs are not the Chiefs from yesteryear, or these teams are not the most explosive offenses in the world. So the Eagles defense are going to keep the Eagles in the ball game. So they're going to have a good chance of being able to run the ball and get some big plays and win a 23-24 type of a game.
Look, I know it's not a popular opinion, but the more I went back and watched highlights or all 22 from this game against the Rams, I started to actually feel better about the passing game when I factored in, obviously, the weather, which was a thing for both sides, but not as much for Matthew Stafford, who obviously aired it out. But I think back to, hold on a second, I got a quarterback that ran for a 44-yard touchdown. I got a quarterback that threw a 40-yard bomb down the middle of the field. That would have been a completion, but unfortunately, Devontae Smith got popped at the exact same time and dropped it. And A.J. Brown bobbles a ball and doesn't get credit for the reception because he landed out of bounds, that, as he even said, 99 times out of 100, he catches. And as you pointed out, that's 230, 240 yards in a snow game that you're leading most of the time. I feel pretty good about the Eagles passing game.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great assessment. And you and I are in the same boat. Now, there are some issues outside of that. This is one game. And I believe that the Rams were definitely vulnerable in passing situations. So Jalen just has to be more consistent when it comes to decision making. You can't take that many sacks in a game, especially when 4, maybe 5 are on you as the quarterback. And that's the danger of having a quarterback that can move, because you want him to make plays, but at the same time, he doesn't recognize when it's not time to make a play and it's just time to play the game on schedule and throw the ball, check it down.
All right. Now, you found yourself in a couple of situations throughout your career where you had to obviously block for a quarterback or you had to block for a running back. When you hear a defensive coordinator say, oh, we're going to hit the quarterback like a running back, like they're really trying to make a statement as a DC, what goes through your mind if you got a block on any one of these plays?
Well, here's the thing. That's bulletin board material. First of all, you think you're going to intimidate the Eagles? Your defensive line has been getting their entire year, right? Your old linebacker in Wagner hadn't been able to get to the flats the way that he used to be able to get to the flats. And then we have the league's leading rusher. Okay, you want to do that? Okay, let's see you do it. And I think that's the Eagles' mentality. So everybody on that team, including the receivers, the tight ends, the offensive line, the coaches, took that very disrespectfully. And I'm sure the Eagles are going to run the hell out of the ball and prove a point. And I think this is the last team that you want to talk crap to, especially when it comes to being a physical football team. We're a more physical football team than the Commanders are, even though they knocked Jalen out of the game last time with a very questionable, hit. So you get in a war of just let's see who's the toughest with this team. It's just that they're not that group. So what it lets me know is that first, the Commanders hadn't been there before. 1, because your coaches got to know when to shut the hell up. And 2, they're trying to pump themselves up. That's how you know that what they really believe on inside, because when you start speaking, kind of lets you know that they are not that confident.
Mm-hmm. If Kellen Moore called you or Nick Sirianni called you and they just said, hey, Jason, we're struggling with originality, being less predictable in this offense, what would you tell them? What do you think this Eagles offense could do that would help move the ball downfield?
Well, it's tough.
Other than just hand it to Saquon.
Tough because I'm not in the position of knowing what the quarterback can handle. That's the thing that we don't know. Like, we don't know what the quarterbacks feel that he can handle or what the quarterback likes. I know that Kellen Moore historically has been an under-centered offensive coordinator because you can get to Moore, and that marries well with play action and marries well with the run game. You're turning your back toward the defense. It causes the linebackers to move up. So I know that they want to do that, and apparently Jalen is not as comfortable with that because they do less of that when he's in there than when Tanner McKee's in there. But one thing that I would try my best to do is move AJ around and not have him on the outside all the time. Let's put him in the slot. Let's put him in motion. Let's be able to create some matchups where he's not as predictable going down the field. And also against the Commanders, he can't cover. Number one, their nickel cannot cover. And so Devontae, whoever that is, that dude has been getting beat the entire season. So he's a guy that we should attack. So that's what I would basically call my offense through. But again, can Jalen handle that? There's more people over the middle of the field. Will I be able to get to the middle of the field if he doesn't see in the middle of the field because of the height of the offensive line? So me is move A.J. Brown around a bunch. Try my best to throw deep crosses. Try my best to throw things that we are not used to running. Corner stops, corner routes. We do run some shallow crosses, but daggers, things like that are in-breaking, just like the Rams did to us. They killed us with in-breaking routes, and we're going to see that for the Commanders against our defense.
When you look at the Commanders in general, what jumps out to you and it makes you say, this is what the Eagles have to be most careful of going up against this Washington team?
It's the quarterback, and it's the quarterback and his ability his ability to be a dual threat and not being able to. You can't just play normal defense. You got to have a system of rushing and containing the quarterback. You have to be able to play coy with the nickel or the outside linebacker because they like to use wide formations and alignments where the receivers are almost at the numbers or past them. So if you stack the box, now you have a 3-on-1, and then Terry McLaurin took that one to the house because the guy's out of position, the third guy. So you have to be able to walk him out there, but cheat him back in. So there's a lot of nuance that comes along with playing them. You're also worrying about his ability to break tackles and make guys miss, because that's the difference in the ball game. The first game against the Commanders, and the second game is that we couldn't tackle Jaden Daniels at times. We just couldn't tackle him. And so our guys are going to be able to have to tackle in space. I think we can hold up outside. And another thing, too, is that second game, we blew 4 coverages in that game. 3 of them ended up in a touchdown. Just flat out blew the coverage, right? Flat out, guy not on the field one time. Darius Slay runs out of zone 4, cover 4, into my man-to-man principles. Zakia scores a touchdown behind him. Crowder dupes Garner Johnson up the seam. That's 3 right there. And then the one on Quinyon, where there's no way that should happen. You're in the deep side of the field with him, so your feet shouldn't stop. So when you think about it, the Eagles are not going to play that poorly again. I just don't see that happening. Now, tackling is the biggest thing. Can we tackle Jaden Daniels when he runs? That's the biggest thing. The first game, N'Kobe Dean was able to get him on the ground in multiple one-on-one situations. The past game that we played against them, none of our guys were able to get him on the ground.
When you see, I know we just talked about a struggle that Quinyon Mitchell had, but Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell this season, from a wide receiver's perspective, what impresses you about those two young, one corner, and then Vic Fangio insists he's a nickel, he's not a corner, he's a nickel. What impressed you about those two defensive backs?
Let's start with Quinyon. Quinyon is a competitor, and I respect that. I respect guys that are willing to walk up and play press, even if it's zone. I respect that because they think that, okay, I'm faster than everyone. I'm just as quick as anybody. Nobody can get open on me. So that's the mentality. That's the thing that you like about Quinyon, is that he competes and he's willing to step up to the plate each and every time. And he's excellent at coverage, right? Excellent at man-to-man coverage. And when you're excellent at man-to-man coverage, sometimes you don't get picks. The guys that get picks are guys that sit and watch the quarterback's eyes, and that's just the truth. A lot of guys, Deion Sanders don't have a lot of picks, but Asante Samuel has a lot of picks, right? So both probably deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but it's just cutting it a little bit different, you know? So Quinyon is a guy that can cover anyone. Still learning the game, still has a lot to grow. I like Cooper DeJean because Cooper is a master at zone. Master at zone coverage. When I say master, day one coming in. You know why? It's the only thing they play at Iowa. The only thing they play at Iowa is cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, cover 3. That's the only thing they play. So he understands where the defense is weak. Every zone has a weakness in it. And it's up for smart players to recognize route concepts and then make up for the weakness in the way that you play. There's multiple times where he is finding work in somebody else's zone when his responsibility is taken care of. That's just veteran play when it comes to zone. It's going to take him a little time to be able to cover anybody in the slot. He needs a certain matchup. Certain guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown or a shifty guy like that will be tough for him. But he competes, puts his hands on you, and he's a great athlete. He's only going to get better. So I think they're two of the shining spots in the league. The thing that we have to get back to is that when Cooper was first implemented as the nickel, he was blitzing a lot more. We've been reluctant to send him the last 4 or 5 games for some reason. So I don't know why, but we need to add that back in the game plan.
I'd love to see it. Last one for you. Is it too bold to ask for a prediction now? Ooh. Eagles, Commanders, who you got?
I got the Birds. Score, don't necessarily know the score, but I think the score is going to be over a 7-point win. I don't know.
Jason Vaughn's telling us to hit the Eagles. I love it.
Yep.
Jason, always great catching up with you, man. Thank you so much. Good luck in the rest of the competition. I know you're a fantastic dancer. I know you're going to do a phenomenal job the rest of the way, friend.
Yeah, got a first place and a second place so far, and now we got harder competition tomorrow, so it'll be tough.
Congratulations on the first place, and I don't even see the other people, but I know you were robbed with that second place. I know you should have been first. Jason Avant, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys are checking out Q&A podcast, him and Quentin Michael, of course, former Eagles safety. You guys can check that out on the Inside the Birds radio empire. So make sure you guys check that out. And, of course, on NBC Sports Philadelphia as well. Jason, again, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Mark. Take it easy, buddy.